Good afternoon to everybody who's joined the CareVision's Healthy Aging live conversation this Tuesday afternoon. It's the equinox. I think I've got it the right way around. So I definitely feels like it's the beginning of winter. We've moved away from summer, and certainly where I am, it's a lot cloudier and colder than it has been for the last few days. I'm just going to bring you up to date with some of the new material that CareVisions has been producing, and then I'll be introducing my guest today, Othniel Blake from Methodist Homes for the Aged, to talk about how do we change the way we look at support for older people and people with dementia, breaking out from some of the received practices and moving to new boundaries and new approaches that MHA have been pioneering, and Othniel has been a fantastic campaigner for over the years. But just to bring you up to date with some of the activity that CareVisions is doing, every week I introduce a couple of the new videos that CareVisions have been producing, and the company is all about producing new material to help people age well and enjoy life to the best they can. And last week I talked about a new video about Johnny Cash and Patsy Cline. Well, we've moved forward a decade or more, and this week there's a film about the swinging 60s, the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, The Who, the Rolling Stones. So come right up to the 60s with the latest film from CareVisions, Swinging 60s, the fashion and the music. And beautifully it all comes together at the end of the film with Nancy Sinatra, who not only sings her fantastic song, My Boots Are Made for Walking, or These Boots Are Made for Walking rather, but also celebrates the miniskirt, as you can see in the film, and one of the iconic pieces of trend that developed in the 1960s, led by the famous designer Mary Quant. So do go and look at the Swinging 60s, the fashion and the music, now available on the CareVisions YouTube site and Facebook site. The other one that's up new this week is completely different. It's actually a biography, really, or autobiography, by a photographer, Rodri Jones, a Welshman who lives most of his life in Italy. And it's a perspective through the camera lens. He's a photographer who's captured some amazing scenes through his life. And he talks about his life. He actually started out life, he was born in 1963, so he's a child of the swinging 60s himself. And it's his personal story, starting with moving to Italy fairly early on after he was at university, I think. Then he went to South America, joined the El Salvador revolutionaries, been to Albania, China for many, many years, went to China every year and captured that book, in that country's development in his book, Made in China, one of his first photographic books. And one of the wonderful statements he makes, which is really relevant to our conversation today and the whole ethos of CareVisions, is it's never too late to find a new passion and to start something anew. And I think that's a great philosophy for anyone as they get older. It's never too late to find a new passion and start something anew. So today we're starting something anew with my guest, Othniel Blake. Hi, Othniel. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Hi, Jeremy. Thank you so much for having me. Delighted to be here. I really am.
It's always good to talk to you. And I thought we'd start with something positive because everyone's feeling a bit under the cosh at the moment with the coronavirus and everything that's restricting our lives. So I always want to start with a positive note. So tell me something that's made you happy in the last week or so. What's one of your happy moments?
Happy moment. Well, I'm a bit of a foodie. Anyone that meets me knows that. So I would say a nice meal that I had over the weekend with family, which, you know, those opportunities we haven't been able to do that. And although those opportunities are looking like they might fade soon, I would say that really brought me some happiness this weekend. Just some classic food and family and conversation. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, that's something that's brought me some happiness.
Are you the cook in the family, or does somebody else do the cooking?
Yeah, well, actually, I have a lot of cooks in the family, and so I'm quite a good cook. And I think during quarantine, I've explored my cooking skills a little bit more. But my mother is an excellent cook, so I let her do it this time.
And are you all local? Because I know you told me you moved from London to Derby when you were sort of in your primary school years, and you've been there ever since. Are all your family close by?
Yes, we are all close by, luckily. We are still interspersed, but the immediate family are nice and close. So we're in Derby, you know, we've got mother and sisters in Derby, which is really nice. And then we've got family further afield as well, all the way in America and the like. So it makes a good reason for a vacation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you did say you love cookery, and I noticed in your biography that there was a sentence which I thought was a lovely summary of who you are, which says that Othniel is somebody who loves people, loves cake, and loves Christ. So
absolutely,
cake is definitely in there as one of the loves of your life.
Absolutely it is, especially a Victoria Sponge or a lemon drizzle. The classics can never go wrong.
And I'm sure a lot of people who are viewing today will join in recognizing that cake is an important part of living well.
Absolutely.
And anyone who's on the call today or is listening or watching, if you want to ask a question of Othniel, we'll come to some questions at the end of our conversation. Just use the chat function on Facebook to put your question, and I'll try and squeeze a couple of questions in at the end. But we've got a lot to talk about, so I'm going to move straight into it. Just tell me, Othniel, a little bit about MHA, Methodist Homes for the Aged, because not everybody will know who you are and what you are.
Absolutely. Okay, so MHA was founded in 1943, actually, and it was founded by Methodist members. So actually, what we found is it's grown a lot. You know, its initial origination has definitely developed over the years, and you know, MHA's main concern is enabling older people to live later life well, and they do that through specialist dementia services, music therapy, chaplaincy, and also MHA are the only provider to do all three, in the sense that they have residential care, as well as care homes, and as well as community services, where we enable people to stay at home and actually live in their community. You know, MHA is a really rich organisation in the sense that although it is the largest charity care provider in the UK, it's got a real local feel. You know, we're over the UK, Scotland, Wales, and we're very stretched. There's about 222 services in total. So MHA is quite broad in that sense and its offering. And I think that what we deliver is something that makes people feel like they're at home away from home in total. So I think that's a really nice summary for MHA as well.
That's a really nice expression. Now, your role is campaigns director or campaigns manager. Not every home care group would have one of those. So it does seem to mark MHA out to say that it's probably in keeping with Care Vision's Healthy Aging, whose philosophy is very much to find new ways of supporting people and not to accept that the traditional old ways are the best. What kind of things do you get up to in your role running the campaigns for MHA?
I think what's great about my current role as campaigns manager is it's so diverse. You know, we are very much concerned about social care reform as a team and as a position from terms of what we're looking from an external point of view and what we desire from government. So our team, as a part of that, can look at multiple things, from campaigning for the rights of older people all the way to those who work for us and those who actually support older people, lobbying government for better changes and better, provisions for older people. We don't just, although MHA is our focus, we actually do a lot of lobbying for the sector wide, because that's our main concern. Any change for the sector is a good change for us. So, our days are up and down, especially during COVID. I think that's really amplified a lot of the work we've had to do. But yeah, what's exciting for us and what's exciting for the team is the breadth of which, as you mentioned rightly, Jeremy, there aren't many organizations who are actually providers and also campaign. So it's a really nice element in terms of we can be at the forefront or the center even of necessary changes that need to come about.
And one of the things that many people have felt, particularly over the last 6 months or so, that social care has been forgotten compared to the NHS and hasn't had the profile and the support it needs. And of course, we know that if you need social care support, not everyone gets it paid for. In fact, most people probably have to pay for it themselves, whereas for health services, you get it paid for on the NHS. So it does seem a bit like an uphill struggle to get that to change. You say you're focusing on campaigns. What would you say are the campaign successes you've had in terms of things that you can point to and say, I'm really proud of this, we've made a difference?
I'm really proud of our most recent campaign, actually. I joined MHA over a year ago and joined as a campaigns manager. Just coming up to COVID-19, actually. So it was a really challenging time in terms of when I joined the team. But our most recent campaign, I'm really proud of because it highlighted our people. It was called Hidden Heroes. And I just think I think the work that the people do on the front line is phenomenal. I think most of us, would happily agree we couldn't step in those shoes. And the fact that often these people are the last to be thought about, I think we can all agree that shouldn't be the case. They put themselves on the forefront so often. And I just think the work they do is phenomenal. And being able to celebrate them and being able to highlight what they were doing, even at a time like COVID-19. I mean, we had a catering manager, for example, work extra hours so she could fill another role, the admin's role that wasn't there at the time. We've had a maintenance worker be providing haircuts throughout COVID-19 to residents. We've had, just a plethora of stories where people really care about the residents. They really care about our members. They really care about what they're delivering. I think being able to highlight that and shine a light on the true work involved is so important. I think it's just any opportunity to show that is a success to me. So I would definitely say that campaign was a joy and one of our key moments that we've had, that even through a bit of a negative time, we were able to elevate the conversation for care workers and those who work in care.
And it's a good point, the examples you gave. It sounds like the hidden heroes aren't just the people who are the care workers, the care staff, but it's actually anybody involved. It can be the caretakers, it can be the cooks, it can be anybody. Is that right? Your hidden heroes sometimes can be quite hidden.
And that's exactly where the name came from. The idea that we think we know what happens in a care home, we think we have the understanding, but actually there's so many more layers to it when you're actually within the home itself. I think, people don't often think the maintenance worker gets involved, but oh my gosh, yes, he does. And what we find is people who come and join us in care settings. I mean, I remember talking to a maintenance worker and he found so much pleasure being at MHA that he never had before, because in fact, he felt like even though he may just be fixing Doris's light bulb or whatever, he was doing it to help Doris's day go better. There was a real purpose, and I think that's what keeps them there, and that's what keeps our people amazing, because they always go that one step above as well. Yeah.
And what about the people that they're supporting? Because it is very easy to become very paternalistic, and one of the things that in Care Visions is very keen to look at is the way in which we tend to think that as you get older, and particularly when you move into residential care, somehow you just have to let everyone else do everything for you, rather than be motivated about trying new things and developing new opportunities and putting yourself in control. How does MHA try to give more authority and more empowerment, really, to the people who are in your care homes, in your housing, or in your community services?
I think they do that, we do that by, especially for our residents, by allowing their opinion and allowing their independence to remain. I think person-centered care has become a bit of a buzzword, but when you peel back person-centered care and what that actually means, it's allowing an individual to remain an individual and have choices in their care, have choices in what they want to be doing, how they want to grow older. I think initiatives like Seize the Day, which we have had for a very long time, are a great way to show that, obviously pre-COVID this was, but it's a great way to show an understanding for the fact that people still have desires. All of us will have desires. Even when we get older, we'll start to think about things in a different way. I think we start to reflect on life a bit more as we grow older. And what's important, and what I love what MHA do, is kind of allow room for those conversations to take place and try and fulfill them wherever we can, whether it's a Seize the Day initiative and an event that somebody really wants to go on, or whether it's just understanding that that person living with dementia needs to feel like they are a part of their community. So giving them, a task to do that they can feel like they've contributed that day, or whether it's just having a chat with somebody. I think it's about listening and understanding the needs of all individuals. And then as you adapt to them, what you find is you've created services that really fit each individual. And of course, it's hard to do, but that's why our people are really important as well, because they make sure that that's enabled, and they make sure that they put residents and their needs at the forefront.
And when you say Seize the Day, was that a particular campaign then that you ran, or just explain how it worked? How do you make it happen?
Seize the Day is kind of like, if you know, we've all had a bucket list or things we've wanted to do in our lifestyle, and Seize the Day basically encapsulates that. So it was all about asking people, you know, what is it you'd like to do? I think we had a resident who really just wanted to go on a roller coaster and had never been, and one resident who had never been swimming and really wanted to go. And I think, you know, it's just amazing. So what we were able to do is offer that opportunity and take them swimming or take them on the roller coaster. I think we had someone do skydiving, and it's just really exciting. So yeah, just seizing the moment, that's what it's came out of, in the fact that, you know, we are in our later life, however we can still seize the day, we can still seize every moment and enjoy it for what it is.
And giving people permission to try new things and do things that they've never done before or haven't done for many, many years.
Certainly, in a safe environment too, with people around them that care and can support them to do it correctly, and do the information searching and research behind it to make sure it's right for residents too. Yeah.
Right. And the other thing you talked to me about when we were preparing for this conversation is the Happiness Project you talked about, which sounded, just its name itself seems to conjure up happiness in it just by the title. Is that different from the things you've described? Just tell me a little bit more about the Happiness Project.
Yes, it is. So it's a project that we were looking at pre-COVID. It's taken a little bit of a silence moment, but we should hopefully be back after the hiatus, because actually I think its importance is starting to come back up in terms of us thinking about a second wave and all of those things. But the Happiness Project was formed from a book called Happiness by Design, by a gentleman called Paul Dolan. Now, basically, the idea is that we have this kind of purpose pleasure kind of pendulum, as it were, and we derive purpose from different things and we derive pleasure from others. I think its importance in a care setting is a conversation we maybe haven't had, because actually, if we can create happy environments and discover what is it that makes us happy, what is it in this moment that's deriving pleasure, that's deriving purpose, and how can we make more of that? What's the knock-on effect for people who live in our homes? And this is the kind of core work that we're thinking that is behind the Happiness Projects that we were looking at. What is it that makes somebody happy? We know that care workers, if you ask them, or you were down at the bar or down or whatever, and you were having a general conversation, they would very much so say, I thoroughly enjoy what I do and I derive loads of purpose from it. But in the moment, in the day-to-day small nuances, how do they actually feel? Are they happy in those moments? And what can we do as an organization to increase those moments of happiness, so then we can actually, you know, deliver a happy environment for not just those who work there, but for those who live there too. And that's really what the project's about. And I think it's lovely. I'm really excited to pick it back up.
It sounds absolutely magic, because it's all about putting people in control and letting them measure their own success and feel that they're not being expected to do something because somebody else wants them to do it, but they're doing it because they're motivated. And your job, and the job of anyone, Care Visions or any other organisation, is to enable people to do that and to have that happy moment, to feel that they can be having a happier life and a life that fulfills them. Now, one of the things that, of course, has been difficult is coronavirus. How is that? You said it's rather disrupted that programme. How have you coped as an organisation over the last 6 months? And clearly it's something we're going to continue with for a few months more at least.
Well, I think like any care provider at this time, it's been challenging, to say the least. I think the challenges that we faced have been both, actually, although they're very real, they're very raw. Of course, we've had to really get a handle of things, and we've had to change things, and especially when it comes to visitors and when it comes to that ability to decide, actually, we know this visitor is really important and really essential for this person, but we've also got to manage their safety. These are the kinds of conversations that I think have been challenging. Of course, it's been for everybody. It came at a complete surprise, but I think a lot of good came out of this as well, in the sense that we've been able to talk to government in ways about conversations that were probably feeling a little sticky. You know, social care reform has had this long-awaited promised green paper that we haven't seen, and all of these, other moments. But actually, it's allowed for a conversation around our care homes have had a bit of an issue, and actually what should we be doing to support them better? I think that's been amazing in that sense, to raise those conversations with the correct people and have them. But as an organization, we've also had to adapt a lot. So our music therapy sessions have had to adapt. They've found ways, and our chief music therapist is exceptional. He really is. And finding ways to adapt our music therapy, because we understand the importance that music therapy has in quality of life, but not just that, quality of care as well. So adapting those services with things like Zoom, and Zoom's become everyone's bread and butter, but it's allowed us to keep services going. Spirituality is also a key part of MHA's offering, so allowing those services to continue, whether it be via a phone call or online, has been really important too. So adapting, I think, has been our word for the past 6 months. But I think as much as there has been challenges, I'm really pleased as an organization of how we've come out of it and how we've worked through it as well, because I think we've knitted together much better than before. Absolutely.
And one of the things you just mentioned, and I know MHA have been a pioneer of, and you've been driving, is music. Can you just tell me a little bit more about, if you like, the before and after? So how did you provide music support to people before COVID? And how are you now doing it? And this week's particularly important, of course, because the BBC is focusing on music and dementia and doing a whole load of programming. So just tell me a little bit more about the part that MHA has played in pioneering new approaches to music and helping to give people support and quality of life and enjoyment out of music.
I would love to. Our relationship with music, yes, as you're right, goes back to about 2008. So when we hired our first in-house music therapist, and the understanding behind it was always driven in the thought process of how music is so well tied to our lifestyle, and it's tied to a lot of moments. I think we all have that song that if you played it, you're transported immediately back to that moment, that memory, and our music therapists are trained professionals. They are incredible, and we have now grown to actually, they're standard across our services, and the majority of our care homes have either a physical music therapist in them, or they have someone who delivers sessions remotely. They range from a one-to-one session to open groups, and they're really supportive in terms of how they enable people to live a life that is full within our care homes. I think a great story of how music therapy works is there's a lady called Cynthia, and I hope I remember her story correctly, but she joined our homes when her husband had passed away. Following that, her daughter had passed away shortly after. Now, it's completely traumatic for absolutely anyone. This would be a terrible story. However, although she regressed and she was feeling a bit despondent, what we were able to do was ease her into her new care setting, and that restlessness and anxiety she was feeling, we were actually able to speak to her by actually having her with one of our music therapists. We found out that she loved to play the organ, and I think we brought her organ in from her own house, and she was there even teaching the music therapist how to play the organ. She just started to come alive. The carers spoke about how they were able to experience new sides of Cynthia's character and really understand her more, and her son even said he got a glimpse of his old mum back. And I'm like, that is why we have music therapy, for people to have a glimpse, a moment with their loved one again. And even residents and carers, they all get to connect and engage with those around them again through music therapy. And that's what's so phenomenal about it. It's a little more further than playing a song in the background, but it's actually finding out and uncovering what makes this person tick, and then keep striking that as well.
So how have you been able to adapt that with coronavirus? Obviously, it makes it more difficult to have that direct contact. How have you been able to take this and continue it over the last 6 months, and how will you take it forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, our services have had to adapt. Zoom is a great example of how they've adapted. Exactly. Our one-to-one sessions work really well via Zoom, but where possible, our music therapists are key members of staff. We see them as necessary as a caterer, and necessary as a care assistant. We see them as very necessary. So where possible, and we're able to, in line with government guidance, we've actually been able to bring them in and have the sessions one-to-one, socially distanced, all of those things. Of course, they have to be safe, and that's the main important thing. thing is that they're safe sessions. However, being able to adapt them where's possible is so important, so that, you know, having that person physically there in the same room and the music and the acoustics filling up the room is really important as well. So yeah, musical instruments and things like that, they maybe had to take a backseat, but the songs, the music and all of that, we're making sure to keep it going where we can. So Zoom's been a great help. Technology has been a bit of a saving grace for MHA, and I'm sure for a few others as well.
And has the technology sometimes been difficult for the people who live in your services? Because some people say for older people, coping with Zoom and other things is quite difficult. Other people say people get it very quickly. What's been your experience in terms of getting people to use the technology?
Yeah, I think it's totally varied. I think some people are a bit more embraced, you know, a bit more, they embrace it a little more, the newness, the technology of it all. Others are a bit more like, what's this black screen that you've put in front of me and what does it do, you know? So I think it's just about the nuances and working with those individuals as well. I think being able to support people. I think actually initially when we went into lockdown, we hosted a lot of family sessions and family conversations and calls through Skype. So I think that broke some of the boundaries a little bit and kind of broke the ice and allowed people to get a bit more comfortable, because actually what they'd seen was their family member on the same screen, and then they get, you know, they get more used to it. But I do think technology is becoming a bit more part of our world. So it was a kind of a good push, I suppose. But yeah, that's why where possible, if we try to have some sessions in person, if we, you know, if the R rate's low and all of those things. So yeah.
Yeah. And do most people have access to the equipment that they need? Is that something you help with?
Yeah, so obviously MHA are a charity, so so music therapy for one is a charitably funded you know, activity. So where possible, we do actually raise funds for these activities to make sure that they continue to go on. But yeah, you know, the thing is with MHA, they really make sure, I say they being the resident, the staff members, really make sure that any needs are met as well. So, you know, if there is going to be more and more Skype calls, we've actually rolled out tablets to all our homes and things like that to make sure those conversations can keep going. And yeah, we fund as much as we can through charitable donations, because that is how we make a lot of our bread and butter, because that's what supports our services. That's what enables them to continue. So so that's definitely been a great help. Yeah.
And have you been, I mentioned the BBC Music Week this week. Is that something that you've got involved with at MHA?
Oh, absolutely. We've got involved hook, line and sinker, I think, a little bit. You know, just yesterday we were speaking with a lot of our care homes as well. I've been speaking with the BBC to just highlight the amazing power of music and how transformative it is, what it can do for individuals, and really share those stories with the BBC. We're also working with Care England, hopefully going forward in the future. I think you know, to help those musical conversations continue and what we can do to continue them. We've worked with people like IMM, Intergenerational Music Making, who are fantastic throughout this time to play songs from the Chineke to our residents, things like that. So we've been getting involved in our way, in small ways and big ways. And yeah, absolutely. So what the BBC are doing with World Alzheimer's Day, however, is they've also built Music Memory Radio, and we supported that with our residents and our relatives. Last year, we actually helped to advise and build that program, which is, it's a really great feat, actually. It's just a triumph. It's got all different languages and Igbo and Yoruba songs and 1950s. Yeah. You can explore these things. So yeah, so being able to be in line with that and seeing it actually come out this year is great.
Brilliant. And it's interesting that from the Care Visions, I know that some of the films that the Care Visions have produced, like the one with Glenn Miller, Patsy Cline, the latest one on the swinging 60s with the Beatles and the other musicians from the 60s, shows how music is a way of connecting. And there's so many comments and likes that Care Vision has got for its music videos. It's fascinating to see how it's a way of connecting with people. You mentioned Chineke. Now, not everybody will know who Chineke are. And I've had the privilege of seeing some of the clips of film. Just very quickly, because we're going to run out of time, but just tell me in a moment what the partnership with Chineke was. Who are they and how did it work?
The Chineke Orchestra are the first BAME only orchestra in the UK. They live in London. They're a fantastic orchestra. They are really classically trained. They're phenomenal. And they were able to play back some songs for our residents. So it was a musical conversation. Our residents told the Chineke what song they would like to hear back, whether it was You Are My Sunshine or, you know, The Way to Tipperary. And then someone from the Chineke Orchestra, who are, it was actually from the Chineke Orchestra Juniors, so up and coming junior classical performers, and they are so talented. And they played back songs for our residents, which went down absolutely like a storm.
Sounds absolutely, and you were able to do that during coronavirus.
Yes, we were. That's the power of technology. We used Facebook to be able to do that and play the songs back. So we're grateful for technology in this time. And yeah, you know, and it was great for the juniors as well, because I'm sure they've experienced their own loneliness in this time too, not being in school and those things.
And
so,
that intergenerational connection is really important. I think people see the power of people connecting with grandparents and people, you know, much older than them, and the learning both ways seems to be fantastic, and the pleasure people get from those connections.
Yes, it's like a light bulb comes on again. It's music, but it's also feeling like you're a back part of supporting other people and supporting a different age group, and they feel like they're getting something from the older generation too. It's a really nice swap over of lifestyles, and they're coming together by music. Beautiful.
Brilliant. Now, Othniel, I've been very bad because I've talked too much and I haven't got enough time. I've asked you too many questions, but there are a couple of questions I just want to squeeze in before we finish. We've got a few questions coming. So firstly, someone called Maureen has asked that people in care homes and shielding at home can become enormously isolated at the moment. What can any individual do to help? What you know, it's one thing for an organisation, MHA, but lots of our viewers might be thinking, well, what can I do to help? Have you got any suggestions on what an individual can do?
I think, you know, it's really different, because obviously I think the best thing you can do right now is get on the phone. It's COVID free, it's socially distant, but also it's really impactful. You know, I've learned that through our MHA befriending service, that actually these really help people when you're able to get on the phone and have a phone call with somebody, just like we're having the chat now. You'll leave, you have the conversation, you just feel a bit better, your day's a little sparked, you know. And I think if there's anyone lonely around you, check on them, ask them, have a phone call with them, recommend a service to them like MHA. I mean, of course, we're available to be recommended to. Our community services have gone digital where possible. And yeah, absolutely, have a phone call and don't be afraid to call somebody and check on them, even if you can't knock on the door and physically visit anyone.
That's lovely really advice. No, and there are organisations like Age UK, MHA, and so on that can help you connect to people in the local community. The other question I'll just squeeze in quickly because it relates to what we were just saying is from somebody called James, who says he's a carer for his wife and they live together in their family home. Music therapy sounds great. How can they get access to it for themselves at home?
Numerous ways actually. For MHA, you can get involved actually digitally, and the best way to do that is to reach out directly to someone like myself or go to music therapy page on our website, visit the website and fill in the little form, and we can actually work on that in terms of bringing you in. Another way to do that is to just use something like BBC Music Memories. Actually pop on there, download one of the sheets. It's a great little tool. You know, we even use it sometimes in our homes, and there's even an activity sheet so you can ask the right reminiscence questions going through. I think that's a really good way to start.
So all you need to do is put into Google BBC Music Memories and you get a wealth of material that you can use and download, which is fantastic advice. And of course, one of my guests on this conversation a few weeks ago was Sally Magnuson, who set up Playlist for Life. And that's a way of producing your own music playlist that people can use in your own home. So James, I hope that's helpful for you and your wife. Othniel, we're right out of time. In fact, we're over time, so I better stop. So thank you so much for joining me today. I think you've really inspired me to think about what we can all do and how we can help people live better and live healthier lives for longer. So thank you so much. Next week, my guest will be James Vickers, Professor from the University of Tasmania, talking about preventing dementia and promoting healthy ageing and how we can all take part. And if you look at the CareVision site, there's a healthy ageing course, Preventing Dementia, being run with the University of Tasmania that you can sign up to, a free course, 4 weeks long, and it starts at the beginning of October. So please do sign up for that Preventing Dementia course, 4-week course, entirely free of charge. Othniel, thank you once again. Thank you everybody who's joined us today, and have a very good week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.